All right, it says you're live. I'm going to turn off, I think, just one light. Oh. Do you guys want one light on? Or 0 lights on? A or B? All right. Is everybody there? We're all there? Make sure you're muted. Okay. We're going to get started. So we're going to go over assignment 1.0. This is FrameCAD fundamentals, and you won't see this on your canvas yet. I'll publish it as soon as I'm done with the lecture so you guys can get started on it. It has 2 things. It's got a handout, which I meticulously created for all of you. It's got screenshots and verbiage and step-by-step of exactly what you need to do. And then there's a link to a recorded lecture, which I have to relink after this lecture, but it's going to take you to my YouTube video where you have the exact lecture for this exact assignment for you to have as well. So you can work with one of them, both of them. And for most future assignments in this class, we're going to be doing software exercises. We're going to be doing a 2-story house in FrameCAD Structure and then one in Detailer. And the main way I grade your assignments is I take a look at your screenshot. So if you have not successfully made a screenshot yet, make sure you learn how to. That's going to be really important. There are only 3 file types that I accept for your assignments, and they're JPEG, JPG, and PNG. Okay? And that eliminates anyone from turning in a PowerPoint or a PDF or an Illustrator file or a Photoshop file or whatever else. So just pictures. I just want to see a picture. Okay. So I'm going to click on this handout just to give you all an idea of what it looks like. Step by step, everything is 200% this. Everything is all documented through this whole exercise. It's going to explain more things than I can in this lecture, but it'll probably even miss a few verbal things I say in this lecture. So, okay, this is what we're going to go over today. So, yes, there is going to be a slight lag. Yeah. All right. So first things first, I'm going to go ahead and open up FrameCAD Structure. After I minimize all of these. Okay. I do not expect you all to follow along with me, okay? If you think you're really good at software and you want to just go ahead and get ahead, feel free to continue along with me, but all I expect out of all of you is just your attention, okay? You can either watch right here or just watch on the YouTube Live. There's like a 10 or 15-second delay on the YouTube part, but if you have any questions, I want you to just comment it there because I'd rather get through this as quickly as I can. So I'm using the most up-to-date FrameCAD Structure. It's 11.1.13. You're going to see this dialog box. I'm just going to select yes, so that way I don't have to see this message in the future. Okay, and then one of the first things we're going to do as soon as we open up FrameCAD Structure is we're going to perform a file save as. So to do that, we're going to use one of our file drop-down menus, File, Save As. And one of the most important things I want you all to know is you need to save your files. You need to save them frequently. You need to know where you're saving them, and you need to give them a good name. Right? We've already gone over file naming schemes in my class. You will be graded on that. If you don't follow that file naming scheme, you'll lose a couple of points on the assignment, which overall doesn't really hurt you, but with enough errors, that could really tip you over. So I'm going to consciously find the exact location that I want to save this file in. 2025, fall 2025, FrameCAD Studio, Studio 1, and I'm going to leave it right here. Now you don't have to put it in the same exact spot as I do. We're all going to have different locations of where we want to put it. But one thing we should have in common is at least the file name. FrameCAD Fundamentals. Okay, make sure you're putting your initials at the end of your file name as well, so that way when you guys go out and print with my machine and you break my machine, I know exactly who broke it. I'm going to hit save. I'm actually going to give this a different name because I already have that too. All right. Let's go to docs. So this is FrameCAD Structure. It is a CAD-based program. This software specifically is made for creating structural engineered buildings using cold form steel and our FrameCAD system. So I can 3D model an entire building here and analyze it and make sure that it follows all building codes, make sure that it follows all of my load requirements, including seismic loads, wind loads, snow loads, gravity loads, any of that. Okay, and it is done through what's called IntelliCAD. This is IntelliCAD. So a lot of you have probably heard of AutoCAD. AutoCAD is its own proprietary CAD software. IntelliCAD is its own type. It's its own brand of CAD. So FrameCAD Structure uses IntelliCAD as its base. So it is a command-based program. Okay? To get anything done in this software, we must initiate commands through the command bar. It'll communicate back to us, and we are constantly in communication with FrameCAD Structure via this command line. However, there are several different ways that you can initiate a command. First and foremost, we have all of our drop-down menus above, where it says File, Edit, Insert, View, all organized based on your needs. So if you are going to insert something, maybe a floor plan, maybe a PDF, maybe an image, you'd go to Insert. If you're doing dimensions, you use the Dimensions drop-down menu. If you need to do something with the file, you go to the File drop-down menu. Most of the magic occurs in the Structure drop-down menu. So when I click Structure, this is where the main components of this FrameCAD Structure software lives. So settings, we have B-set for border setup, we have our panel settings, we have our truss settings, and we have our floor settings.
In your YouTube, you can't see where you're clicking at the top. It's like the head's chopped off.
Really?
Yeah.
Oops. Let's do structure. Oh, are you? Is this my YouTube?
Okay, never mind. That was me, I guess.
Okay. Okay. Good. That's okay. All right. So, yes, drop-down menu, structure drop-down menu. All of the structural stuff that we're going to be doing in this class for structure is going to live right here and through these menus. We're going to be experiencing a lot of them throughout the semester. It's going to take us about 10 weeks to make a 2-story house in this software, which is a long time, right? For such a fast system, right? The printing is fast, the software is fast, the engineering is fast. 10 weeks is a long time, but really it boils down to 10 class sessions, which is 10 days, which is 3 hours per day, which is about 30 hours, so it's not so bad, but...
How fast can someone that's doing this, these guys that came over super fast to do that in an hour?
Yeah, maybe a couple hours. It shouldn't take very long. Yeah. So that's where we can find a lot of our structure commands. We also have our tool ribbon, which is all of these tabs down below the drop-down menu. A lot of our commands are organized in a similar fashion, but they have these little icons. So that's always kind of helpful. But the main way we're going to interact with the commands is down below here on the command bar. Okay. So what the command bar is, it's got these three lines here, which are our command history. So every command we initiate and all the communication we have with our command bar, all of that gets saved right here. We can actually scroll back up and down and see everything that we've done in the past. We can undo a specific amount of times. But right where it says command, this is where you're entering those commands. That's going to be the main way we communicate with structure. We've got a couple toolbars here on the left side, and I've also got a properties panel. I really don't need that, so I'm going to go ahead and close the properties panel just to give myself some more real estate. So one of the big obvious things in this view here is this big black hole. This is our modeling environment. Okay, this is where all the work is going to be done. We're going to be 3D modeling in this space. Down below are a couple of tabs. The one that is in bold it says layouts. Okay, so we're currently looking at the layouts tab. Right, there's nothing here yet, but there will be soon. If I navigate to the next tab that says model, this is the area where we're going to get a preview of our 3D generated model. So layouts is where we're doing all of the actual design work and orthographic views, whereas in the model, we're going to be able to spin around and see our 3D model. And then we have Layout 1. Layout 1 is just an extra tab, and this is used as a scratch pad. So if there is any notes you need to keep, if there are some company standards you need to have, if there are certain CAD blocks you need to have, you can store them here. It's just a scratch pad. It's not one of the more important tabs. All right. I can draw something. You can put some text in there. You can put a PDF in there. All kinds of things. So we've gone over all that. The next thing I want to discuss with you all is the mouse and how this interacts with FrameCAD. So here I have just a typical mouse. Mine's wireless. But you really definitely need a scroll wheel on your mouse when you're working on CAD software, right? Rhino, AutoCAD, Revit, Fusion. It's required that you have left-click buttons, right-click buttons, and then the middle wheel button, right? That middle wheel button in Structure allows us to zoom in and out, right? So as we scroll forwards, we're zooming in. Scrolling backwards, we're zooming out. It's hard to tell here in this view because there's no geometry in here yet, but we can also perform what is called a pan. So if I quickly add a little rectangle into my modeling environment, oops, rectangle. Correct. Yes. I'll get to it. It's so hard to read. Yeah. So this is the main reason why I've navigated to putting all my lectures on live. Is these projectors are so old that the contrast is really poor. So while the YouTube stream might be a little laggy, it's going to be better visually. A pan is when you click on the middle wheel button and you drag. That's it. And what does that do? It just drags you like a mime to and fro. You know, like that, right? Whereas zooming in and out is you know, actually moving your eyeballs closer to, you know, the screen and zooming yourself out. And that's basically it for the mouse. Now, the next thing I want to get to is the status bar. Down below, on the far right, bottom right corner, is what's called the status bar. Most CAD programs will have a status bar. And in this status bar is a series of tools that you can use as you 2D and 3D model in this CAD software. To name a few, there is the snap on and off, grid on and off, ortho on and off, polar tracking, entity snap settings, and entity snap tracking. Some of the more important ones are the ortho and entity snap settings. So ortho, when you enable something like ortho, what will happen is you'll click it, right? And it'll turn blue to let you know that it's enabled. If you don't know which one is ortho, all you need to do is hover your cursor above any one of those icons and just let it rest there. And a little cursor tip will appear to let you know what that symbol means. Okay. Once you enable ortho, ortho is short for orthogonal, which in architecture means like an orthographic projection is when you're looking at something dead on without any 1-point perspective or 2-point perspective. You are looking at a building from its side elevation dead on. There's no skewing, there's no perspective. And we use that in architecture and in drafting to communicate ideas and dimensions of that object, even though we as humans never perceive that object or building in that way. It's just a drawing convention. So that's orthographic viewing. Now, turning on ortho in a CAD program means you're constrained to moving in straight up and down or left and right motions. So if I were to draw a line while ortho is on, it would constrain me to moving straight up and down or straight left and right. Okay, that's going to be really important moving forward. So make sure you can at least grasp the concept. And then entity snap settings. Entity snap settings. AutoCAD also has, it calls it, what is it? O-snaps. O-snaps are object snaps. So what these are you can actually snap your cursor to very specific points on any piece of geometry here in the modeling environment. Okay, so let's take a line for instance. Let's travel back in time, go back to our geometry class, right? A line is a representation of the distance between 2 points. Point A, point B. The shortest distance is a line, right? So let's say I have a line here in my modeling environment. That line has an endpoint called A. It has another endpoint called B. And I can have my cursor snap to those specific endpoints if I have end entity snap on. Now let's say I want the middle of that line. In my entity snap settings, I can enable midpoint. Okay, these are my snap settings here. These are the ones I have turned on. Nearest, endpoint, midpoint, center, perpendicular, extension, and intersection. Without those turned on, your cursor wouldn't be able to snap to those very specific points, and it's really extremely important in precision modeling. All right, next thing I want to explore with you all is I'm going to start to set up my drawing settings. To do that, I'll navigate to Tools, Drawing Settings. I'm going to go to Linear Unit Type. right here. And I want to make sure that this is set to architectural. So my units in this software will now be displayed to me as architectural units. Here we use imperial units, so we have feet and inches. The symbol for feet is apostrophe, right? So if I wanted to dictate something that is 3 feet long, I would say 3 apostrophe, right? In inches, does anyone know what the symbol for inches is? Correct. Quotation marks. Okay. So if I said I want something to be 3 inches long, it would be 3 quotation mark. Okay. So by setting this up as architectural, I can write in that type of way. My other unit types include scientific, decimal, engineering, and fractional. So we're going to stay away from those, and we're going to pick architectural. And our display precision by default is set to 0. And I'm going to change that to 3. And as I do that, this little window right here is giving me a demonstration of what a display precision of 3 looks like. And what it does is it's going to show me how big something is here in structure to the nearest 1/8 of an inch. Okay. Now the higher I increase that display precision, the bigger that fraction, well, the smaller that fraction is going to be. You can set it up to a display precision of 8, in which we will be now measuring to the nearest 256ths of an inch, which is teeny tiny and just way too small. Okay. Imagine you're a contractor out in the field, right? And you're looking at your drawings, and your structural engineer has dictated that your foundation needs to be 3'2" and 256ths of an inch. How are you going to find that number? How are you going to figure out 256ths of an inch? That's a lot, right? You got the whole inch. Divide that in half. You got a 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch, 1/8 inch, 16th inch, 32nd inch, 64th inch, 128th inch, 256th inch. No measuring tape will display 256ths of an inch. Right, it's too tiny. So we're going to keep it at 3. We're going to keep it to the nearest 1/8 of an inch, which even that is way too tiny. Right? No contractor is going to care about the nearest 1/8 of an inch, right? Unless they're doing finish work, which this is not. This is representative of structural framing, okay? But sometimes we do need it at this high of a tolerance, so we're going to keep it at 1/8. So display precision of 3. And then the next thing, I'm going to head over to entity snaps. Let's see, drawing units, coordinate input, and then entity snaps. Okay, I'm going to have these settings on: draw orthogonal, auto snap magnet. I'm going to uncheck disable entity snaps, and I've got endpoint, nearest, perpendicular, center, midpoint, intersection, and extension. Okay, those are the only entity snap settings that you will need in this class. Excuse me?
What tab did you go to?
This is coordinate input.
Coordinate input?
Yes. This is all in the handout. This is also in another video. And this will also be a live recorded lecture that you'll see later on. Okay. If you try to follow me, you better be fast, because I move fast. This is me moving extremely slow. So, These are the only ones you need on. You do need them on, okay? You do need to snap to the end of a line. You do need to snap to the middle of a line. You do need to snap to the center of something. You can turn them on and off as needed, but you want to make sure you have these on to start with. So the next thing I'm going to show you are we're going to run through some commands. So let's initiate a couple of commands. To do that, you're just going to start typing, right? Let's say I want to draw a line. What command might I need to use? Line, that's good, yes. The line command will produce a line. Yeah, so I'm going to type in line. I'm going to type in line, and I'm going to hit enter, okay? A lot of you are going to be tempted to first put your cursor in the command area and click, and then type that in. You don't need to do that, okay? You just start typing, okay? I'll do that again. All right, got nothing here in my command bar. I'm just going to start typing line, and it's starting to type it right there. All right, now how do I actually initiate that command? There are 3 ways. I can now hit enter on the keyboard. I can hit space bar, or I could right click. All 3 of those things do the same exact thing. Okay. So I'm going to hit enter. And the first thing that's going to happen is the command line is going to communicate with me, right? I said, hey, let's draw a line. It says, all right, where does it start, right? Right here at the end of the command, it says in brackets, it says start of line. So it's asking me, okay, I'm down to make a line with you. Where do you want to put it? Where should we get started? Is there a specific spot you're thinking this line is going to start from? You're going to say yeah. And you're going to move your cursor. These are your, it's really hard to see up here, but you've got crosshairs, right? So I'm just going to click anywhere within my modeling environment to initiate a starting point. So now that I've done that action, now structure is saying, all right, where's the end point, right? A line has 2 points, start point and an end point. So now I can say, well, I think right here. And then I just click. Okay. Now, structure wants to keep going, right? There's still a command down here, right? I'm still using that same command. If I was done with the command, I wouldn't see anything here in the command line. It should just say command and then blank. So if you move your cursor around, you'll notice, hey, it's starting to draw another line. Okay. If you don't want that other line, press enter to end the command. And then always press escape 2 times once you're done with the command. Okay. And what that does is it makes sure that the command is totally ended. And the second time you hit escape, it ensures that everything is deselected. Okay? That's going to be very important moving forward. You don't want to just finish a command and start another one right away. Okay? Because you might accidentally affect something that you still have previously selected. Okay? Now that I've hit enter and escape 2 times, now it says command blank. Okay? Structure's ready for the next move. What else do you want to do? Okay, so I drew a line. I drew a line without any accuracy, right? Besides having ortho on, right? You can see it's a super straight line, right? I'm not that good with my mouse. Ortho is constraining my movements. I can only make straight lines that go straight left or right or straight up and down. If I turn ortho off, type in line, hit enter, start of line, and if I really carefully try to maneuver my cursor straight to the right, I definitely will not get a straight line. Although it might look pretty good, all right, There's the endpoint. I'm done with the command. Hit enter, hit escape 2 times. Oops, where'd it go? Let's try that again. Endpoint. This thing is being a little screwy. Line. Start of line. There we go. Okay, so there's a line made without ortho. And now let's draw another line with ortho on.
Is there a way to turn these rows lights off? Would that help with seeing?
No, this is one switch off, and then the other switch would turn the rest of the lights off. Yeah, unfortunately. All right, so these are my 2 lines. We've got one that was done without ortho on. That's the top one. It's all crooked. It's technically a straight line. It's just not straight relative to my Cartesian plane. Right? If I just rest my cursor there, I can see it's askew. And then the second line is the one with ortho on. So that's what ortho does. So that's the line command. Another command I will teach you is called polyline. I'm going to type in polyline, and I'm going to press enter. What does polyline do? What does polyline do? Creates multiple lines, right? Polyline, many lines, right? So as I use polyline, every time I click, it creates a start point and an end point. And it just continuously creates one big long strand of lines. Okay, once I'm all done, I can hit enter, can hit escape a couple times.
Lines only at 90 degrees though.
If you have ortho on, that's correct. Lines that are all straight and orthogonal, because ortho would be on. Now try that again without ortho, and you probably won't get any 90-degree angles.
Where was it ortho? Line there?
Hover your cursor over all the icons down below in the status bar, and once a cursor tip rings ortho, you will have found it. All right. The next command is a simple one, but a very important one. It is the move command. So I'm going to type in move. I'm going to hit enter. Down below it says select entities to move. Okay. I'm going to use this command to move something from point A to point B. That's how move works. It's a super important command in any CAD software. So I'm going to select the entities to move. Entities in Structure are just things. What things do you want to move? What geometry do you want to move? What wall do you want to move? What roof do you want to move? What thing do you want to move? And I'm going to say, let's move this polyline that I've created. So I'm going to select it. Okay. I've selected it. And then down below, now it says select entities. I don't have anything else that I want to select. So I'm going to press enter. Okay. And now it's asking for a base point or displacement. Okay. Typically in CAD, we're moving it off of a base point, from a relative base point. So what that means is, if I hover my cursor way up to the top left corner, right, far away from this spiraled polyline, and if I click there, click it once, the next thing in the command line will be specify a second point, or use the first point as displacement. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to specify a whole nother point. So I'm going to move my cursor to the right, And you're getting a preview as you do it, but my spiral is being moved. And the way it's being moved is that it's being moved relative to that point that I had selected. So if I said I want to move this blue book, I can pick it up from this corner here and move it over here, right? And the relationship between where I picked it up and that object remains. That gets locked in place, right? So move this book from here to here, okay? Now, if I had a big long extension arm, I could say move it from here to here. That relationship will always stay, right? That's exactly what's happening in this program. Is I could say I want to move this thing from its endpoint to another place, or I could just pick some random point in this infinite space of my canvas, of my modeling environment, and that relationship between the distance from that point to the object, it will remain, right? So if I move the point from point A to point B, this relationship will continue to the next point. Does that make sense? Okay. I hope that makes sense because copy works in the same exact way. So if I type in copy and press enter, it's going to say select entities to copy. Right? Entities are just things. What thing do you want to copy? I'm going to say copy that thing. All right, so I'm going to come here, select that thing, that entity, and I'm going to press enter. And I'm going to specify a base point. Okay, and that base point is not anywhere on the geometry, it's just nearby it. I'm going to click once, and I'll move my cursor away from that point, and you can see the relationship between point A and point B and the geometry. Okay. So if I like this new spot where I'm moving this polyline to, I can go ahead and click, and it will copy it there. My next job is to read the command line. It says specify a second point, or it says the same thing that it did earlier. If I move my cursor away, notice that it's ready to make a whole nother copy, right? I only need one copy, but Structure wants to keep going, okay? If I'm done making copies, I just need to press enter, which would be exit, right? Whatever's in these brackets. So I'm going to say enter. I'm going to hit escape 2 times, and that's how you make a copy of something. That's how you move something. It's the same thing, except one results in a copy. And then the next one I want to show you is called rectangle. I know these are very primitive, but they're very important. This will form the foundation of what we're going to be doing in this class. We're going to be doing way more advanced things, but this is the foundation. So rectangle, I'm going to press enter. It says chamfer, elevation, fillet, rotated, square, thickness, width, and then in brackets it says select first corner of rectangle. So a rectangle has 4 corners. It wants me to define one of those corners, and then it wants me to define next the corner opposite, diagonally opposite of that rectangle or that corner. So if I make my first click to initiate the corner of the rectangle, as I move my cursor away, you can see a rectangle begin to form. It is moving and shifting and changing in size as I move my cursor around. And wherever I lay that second point will define the whole entire rectangle. So if I click, now I have a rectangle. In my command line, I've got nothing. Therefore, there are no active commands going. I can hit escape 2 times just to be absolutely sure. Now circle is another command. We probably won't be using any circles in this class, but it's a good CAD command to know. Circle has a couple of, these are called clickable options. At least in Rhino, these are called clickable options. So these are different methods of creating that, going through that command. I said circle, it says, well, we could do it using 2 points. You could tell me about 3 different points on that circle. We could do radius, tangent, tangent. We can do tangent, tangent, tangent. We can do arc, we can do multiple. Okay. Or you could just tell me the center of the circle. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to tell it the center of the circle. So all I need to do is define where the center of that circle is. I'm going to click way out here in nowhere. And as I move my cursor around, a circle will appear and grow and contract depending on where the second point is. And my cursor is now beginning to define the radius. Okay. So no matter where I drop this, I'm actually defining the radius because I said this is the center, and now I need to say, hey, the radius is over here, meaning that the diameter is twice that size. Once I've defined my radius, just click it. Now you have a circle. And then the last command I'll show you tonight is offset. Offset, one word, press enter. The way offset works is it takes any entity, any geometry, anything that you have, and it creates a copy either inwards towards the center or outwards away from the center, a specific distance. Okay. So for example, if I wanted to create an offset of this giant circle that I have, and let's say I want to offset it, I'm not sure what scale I'm at right now, but let's say 12 inches. I would type in 12, quotation mark, press enter. That defines the offset distance. And then I will select the entity, which is the circle. And then it says side for parallel copy. I have a clickable option that says both sides. Okay. I don't want to offset in both directions. I just want to offset in one direction. So I just want to do it once. And I'm going to click inside, somewhere inside of the circle, so that way the offset comes inwards. And I'll just click once. And a new, smaller circle will appear that has a total diameter difference of 2 feet, right? 12 inches, 2 feet. Now, here in the command line, it says select entity, which means this command wants to keep going, right? And if I have this space and ability, I can select that new circle, and then I can select anywhere inside of that circle. Then I can select that new circle, and then I can select anywhere inside of that circle. And I can select that new circle, and select anywhere inside of that circle. And then at some point I'll get to a limit where I can't make any more circles, right? Because there's only so much room. But I can work my way out, right? Before you know it, you have a target. All right, so that's line, polyline, move, copy, rectangle, circle, and offset. I'm going to quickly go over a little bit of precision modeling. To do that, I'm going to draw a polyline, enter. The start of my polyline, I like to start at the origin, right? Here in Structure and in most CAD software, we're dealing with a Cartesian plane. An x-axis, a y-axis, and then a z-axis, right? So if I want my line to start at the origin, all I need to do is type in that coordinate, 0, 0. Press enter. Oops. Here it is. Here's my origin. I've started a line at 0, 0. And now I want the end of that line to be at a very specific point. I want it to be 8 feet away from that origin. I'm going to type in 8 apostrophe and hit enter. I'm going to zoom out. And then I'm going to make a rectangle using the polyline command, right? I'm starting at the origin, going 8 feet across. I'm going to go 4 feet up. I'm going to go 8 feet across in the negative, and then I'm going to come back down to my origin, or just go down 4 feet. All right, so 8 feet, 4 feet. Once I'm done drawing that rectangle, I can hit enter and hit escape a couple times. Yeah, sorry, this is so faint on this projector, but can you guys see it on the stream?
YouTube is absolutely behind.
How far behind
Like
is it
so
now?
far. I couldn't even watch it anymore.
So I hope your vocals flow.
Sometimes I forget to hook up this mic, so
Hey,
it says it's
test run.
says it's on. Oh, I've test run this so many times. I've told my other classes, I am an instructor, but I am not a YouTuber. So I am not great at the YouTube portion of this stuff. Yeah, they're okay. I try to find a workflow where it's like, all right, I just need to record this stuff and get it on there. But when it comes to doing this live stuff, it's so laggy for me. I always forget something. We're getting new projectors soon, but who knows when. So I've got a rectangle, and I did it using polyline. I started at the origin, 0, 0. I moved to the right using ortho, and I went to the right a distance of 8 feet. I went up 4 feet. I went left 8 feet. I went down 4 feet. And then once I was satisfied with my polyline, I only wanted to make a 4-segment polyline.
And you did that by putting the number too, for a.
Yeah. Yes. This is what's called precision modeling, right? This is the whole reason we use a CAD software, is because we can enter actual numeric values. Okay, and wait till we get to a building. So now I'm going to use the offset command. Offset. That distance I'm going to offset is, let's do 4 inches, 4 quotation mark. I'm going to press enter. I'm going to select the entity, which is my rectangle. I'm going to select the side for parallel copy, which is going to be somewhere inside of the rectangle. I'm going to press enter, and now I have 2 rectangles. One 8 foot by 4 foot, and then one that's 8 inches smaller. Next thing I'll do is I'm going to draw a couple of circles. This will be important for your assignment. So I'm going to start a circle. The center of that circle is going to be the corner of that new offset rectangle that I've made. I'm going to click on that. If you have the correct entity snap settings on, once you hover over the corner of a rectangle, you'll see a small little red square appear. Okay? And a cursor tip, this little bit of text right here that says endpoint, will appear. That's how you know you're selecting the actual endpoint, right? So just because our cursor is somewhere in this vicinity, if it doesn't say these 2 things, you're not actually selecting the endpoint. So if you're hoping to select this endpoint, which for this assignment you should be, you're going to want to make sure your entity snap settings are enabled, and you have the correct ones enabled, just like we did earlier in the assignment. I'm going to click once. Okay, and now I need to define the radius. And I'm going to define the radius as this perpendicular entity snap right here, basically right where that original rectangle occurs. I want this circle to just butt up against that edge. And I'll click there. For this assignment, you're going to need 3 more circles, 1 at each corner. Here are a couple of ways you can achieve that. Obviously, you can continue to make circles from that endpoint with that radius. I'm going to show you how to copy. We're going to hit copy, select that circle, press enter, select that endpoint. click it once, find the next endpoint, which is the other corner of the inside rectangle, click it, press enter, escape 2 times, okay? Now I'll type in copy, hit enter. This time I will select both of these circles. I'm going to press enter. I'm going to select one corner or one endpoint, and move over to the other side of the rectangle and find that endpoint. Click once, enter, escape 2 times. I'll draw a line next. We'll use the line command. I'm going to have you draw a line right down the middle. First, we need to find the midpoint of this top line here of the rectangle. That midpoint has a little triangle. There's a little red triangle, and it says midpoint. Okay, so once it says all that, go and click it. Come all the way down. Come down to the bottom, and you can either use the other midpoint of the line down below. All right, this is a line. There is its midpoint. Or, alternatively, if it gives you the option, you can snap to a perpendicular point, which should be the same exact point with ortho on. Okay, there's my line. I'm going to hit enter. Now that I'm done with the command, I'm going to hit escape a couple times. And then I'm going to go a little bit free form. Okay, I'm going to draw my name using the polyline command without much accuracy, just doing it for fun and for practice. Polyline. And spell it out. Here's a point. There's a point. There and here and here and there and here and there and right there. And there's my T. I'm going to hit enter to complete that shape. I'm all done with the polyline command in regards to the letter T. Now let's put in an E. Roughly the same size. Not aiming for any perfection. Just getting some practice. It's okay if you get a crooked line in there. Now, if you continue doing the same command over and over again, instead of typing in polyline every time you use this command, there's a shortcut. And that little shortcut is by pressing enter, pressing the space bar, or right-clicking. What that's going to do is it's going to repeat the last command you had used. Okay? So if I'm doing polyline, I know I'm going to use it 4 times. Instead of me wasting 0.1 seconds typing in polyline, I can just do the polyline, hit enter, right click, do another polyline, right click, do another polyline, so on and so forth. Okay. Now I need to draw a V. A V has angled lines. So for this, I can turn ortho off. And now I'm able to move freely, right? I'm not constrained to up, down, left, right movements. Okay. Alternatively, you can keep ortho on, okay? And to temporarily turn ortho off, hold shift, okay? So if I hold shift, now ortho is temporarily off. So now I'll go ahead and start to make my V. Now this bottom part, I would like it to be straight. So I'm going to let go of the shift button, and now ortho's back on again. Okay.
So all you did is you left ortho on, but you hit shift to not.
Mm-hmm. So ortho is still on. I'm going to hold shift to temporarily turn it off. I'm going to let go of shift, make a straight line, hold shift, make this angled line, continue to hold shift, make that angled line, and then I'm just going to find this endpoint, press enter, there's my V, and now all I need is an A, same method. Now I need the little triangle. this assignment is done. Okay, this will be assignment 1. This one's due tonight. And then I'll let you get through that assignment, and then we'll do a. Actually, I'll just go ahead. I'm just going to get it over with now while I'm recording. I'm going to run us right into assignment 2, okay, which will be due next week. So once you get done with this assignment, make sure you screenshot this, right? I use a fancy tool called Snagit, but for no, I use a fancy tool called Snagit. You can afford it. You all use Snipping Tool. I have Snagit. I get it for free, right? So you guys just use a little Snipping Tool. Okay, so that's how you take screenshots. Click over here on the window button, start to type in snipping. You guys should all have Snipping Tool if you're using a PC, which you should be, because FrameCAD is not available on a Mac. So you're going to hit Snipping Tool, and you're going to click New, and then you're going to take a screenshot. Boom. Okay, what this allows you to do is save this screenshot with a specific file name in a very specific place where you can find it later. Then you head over to Canvas, start the assignment, upload the file, submit the assignment. Boo! Happy day. Okay. I need to see this kind of stuff because this is how I'm going to grade your assignment. How well you did the assignment. Did you achieve everything that I've asked you to do? If we look back at the handout, okay, here's my handout that I give you for every single assignment, every single word outlined, everything pointed out in fancy fun colors, right? Everything thoroughly explained, no anecdotes. And then here's the actual assignment right here, all explained for you. Here's my screenshot of what I expect. If you send me something similar to that, I'll be grading it upon a rubric, checking for your file naming scheme, checking for accuracy, right? I can see the file name right here in the tab. Your FrameCAD Structure file name is right there. Okay. I don't expect you to draw the 8 and 4. Those are notes for you, right? Okay, so moving on. I'm going to navigate to the next assignment, which I will publish after the lecture. Assignment 2. Intro to FrameCAD Structure, B set. I go into it, I get more in depth on the video. So I'm going to kind of streamline this and give you guys some more time to work on this stuff. But this is where it starts to get a little bit more exciting. It's site research. Okay? When we use structure and we say we're going to make a building in the software, we can tell it exactly where that building is located on planet Earth. And we can tell it what codes to check it upon. We can tell it what loads to expect. And this is where we get started. So we're going to look at wind loads, seismic loads, and then configure our border settings, and then I'll release you guys. So for starters, I'm going to close this out and close this out. This is Snagit. All right, I'm going to go ahead and... So for this one, you're going to start a brand new file. Okay, we're going to do a file save as. And I'm going to call it, I want you to call it FCAD for FrameCAD, FCAD Res Project. Okay, we're going to be using this same file for the next 9 weeks. This is going to be our 2-story house. This is the very first part of it. So no need to put an assignment name on it. I'm going to hit save. I'm going to hit replace, yes. And then let me navigate to it over here so I can read it off proper. Let's go 2.0. Here it is. All right. So site research. I'm going to navigate to a website, which is in the handout. And I'm going to go to Google. Open a new tab. ASCE7 hazard tool.online. Everyone navigate to this website, ASCE7 hazard tool dot online. ASCE7 hazard tool, all one word, dot online. Okay, so what this tool allows us to do, we input our site location. It gives us information on different aspects of that site. We're only going to be using it for checking our wind loads. So if I navigate, I'm going to close this dialog box. Here under address, I'm going to search for the address of this project will be Orange Coast College. Go and search Orange Coast College. I'm going to make sure that for the standard version right here, we're using this version here, 722. And then risk category, we're going to choose risk category 2. And then site soil class, we're going to leave it at default. And then measurements, customary. And the only load types I'm going to use on this website will be wind. So 2, default, customary, wind. Once you hit view results, the only information we need from here is right here under wind. It says 95 VMPHS. I'm sorry, 95 VMPH. So, what does that mean? What we're trying to get out of here is every location here on the planet, here in this country, here in the state, has different seismic loads and requirements and needs, and wind loads, requirements, and needs, right? A design that I'm building here in California might differ than one that's being built out in Wisconsin or Kansas or Chicago, right? Here in California, we're very earthquake prone, right? So what that means is we need to combat that by structurally engineering a very rigid box of a building that can withstand all of these different loads, right? And all I need from this website is I'm only looking at the wind loads. So 95. When we get back to FrameCAD Structure, what we're actually going to use is a base of 110. Whatever we're designing in Structure will withstand winds of 110 miles per hour. So when we see something lower than that, we're just going to round it up to 110. Okay. The next website that I want to show you is called seismicmaps.org. Let's go to, I forgot to show you. If you hit overlay, it'll actually show you all the different wind regions here in this local area. So although I've chosen Orange Coast College, it's really more about the macro area of the climate of this zone. So it shows you different wind patterns and actually throughout the country as well. Got your hurricane zones right down over here. Port Texas and Georgia, Florida, East Coast. And they experience a much different climate than we do, right? We're in this yellow zone, and we're not even in the brightest part of the yellow zone. It actually tears all the way down to this transparent yellow zone. We're not in yellow or orange or red or purple, magenta zone. So when we use this software and dictate that our building is going to be elsewhere, we need to define what the wind loads are going to be in that specific area, so that way the software can properly engineer our building. So seismicmaps.org And again, we're going to choose ASCE 716, risk category 2, site class D for default. And I'm going to search up Orange Coast College. And the only bits of information I'm seeking for FrameCAD Structure is the spectral response. I have a numeric seismic design value at 0.2 second, and I have a numeric size design value at 1.0 seconds. Those are the only two things I care about in here, and the value I'm seeing is 1.064. Okay, so with that bit of information, I can now navigate back to Structure. Okay, I'm here in my brand new file, and we're going to use B-set. I'm going to navigate to the Structure drop-down menu, Settings, B-set, which stands for Border Setup. Okay, notice in this drop-down menu it says B-set, P-set, T-set, J-set. Okay, and those little short names are actually commands. So if I wanted to initiate the border setup command, I could actually just type in B-set. But since I'm already here, I'm going to click border setup. I want you guys to all fill in this information for your client options, your company name. Feel free to fabricate your own manufacturing company. This is all fictional for now, rooted in reality. Type in your own name as the drafter or draftsman or woman. The date should automatically pop in. You can give it a job number. I'm going to give it a number of 001. We can give this project a name. I'm just going to call it FCAD Res Project, same as my file name. And then at some point, it's going to talk about quantity and rows. Okay, so what we're doing are border settings. This is our border setup. What is a border? In the FrameCAD Structure, a border is equivalent to a title block. It's equivalent to a sheet of paper. It's a digital piece of paper. So how many of these borders do I want? We're going to say 8, and we're going to say organize it into 2 rows. We're going to use each one of these borders to 3D model a specific panel or floor or truss or wall system. So instead of 3D modeling all of those things, as they appear in real life, we're going to go to one border and we're going to say, hey, this is my foundation. We'll move to another border. These are my walls. Move to another border. This is the floor above it. Move to another border. These are the roofs above it. These are the walls above it. This is the other roof above it. That's what a border does. For sheet options, we're going to choose a sheet size of 17 by 11. That's a tabloid size piece of paper that is 17 inches by 11 inches. So in this software, we're going to have these digital 17 by 11s. Okay? And then our scale, border scale, should be set to 3/16 to 1 foot. 3/16 quotation mark. Okay. And then there's a colon. And then 1 foot. 1 apostrophe. What that means is this is an architectural scale. Our 3D model will be scaled in such a way that we could print it onto a 17 by 11 piece of paper such that every 3/16 of an inch on the piece of paper will be equivalent to 1 foot in real life. Okay, so 3/16 inch to a foot. Border name. You guys will only have 2 options. BR blank border and BR FrameCAD. Okay, I have a special third option. Mine is BR OCC border. Okay, and I will teach you all how to make this custom border in the future, but we're not going to worry about it now. So just choose BR FrameCAD. And then units type. This is super important. If anything you get out of today's lecture, units type imperial units. Units type imperial units. What are the units type? Imperial units. Okay. If you do not set this now, everything moving forward in this file will be horrifically done. It will be completely wrong, and you'd have to start all over again. Which at this point is, we haven't gotten that far anyway, so that's okay. But for some weird reason, if you don't select imperial units when you set up your borders, forevermore in this file, you'll never be able to change it to imperial. Okay? It'll be stuck at metric. Okay? Same thing with detail sheet ratio, set that to imperial. And then options. Move over to the options tab and then head over to reference options. You're going to see something that says primary color. This has to be changed to 130. And to change it, there's these little dots right over here to the far right. And you got to click on that and you can select any color. We're not going to get to it tonight, but this is the color for a reference point. 75, visibility level, you'll change to 100. Okay, that's that. This is that. Let's go back to engineering. And here under the engineering tab is where you're going to see all of your design codes. Okay, these are the important pieces of the puzzle, right? Structure is going to use this information to structurally design your building, right? So it's going to check against the IBC 2021 loading design code. For the steel design code, it's going to use the standard AISIS 120 design code. Our wind speed. Does anybody remember our wind speed? And what are we going to use? What? 110. That's right. So we're going to up it. We're going to make this even stronger. Just a little stronger. Okay. Another thing we'll change is the strength method. That's fine. Our foundation type should be set to D for medium to loose sand. However, if you go to foundation type, you'll see there are other classifications depending on where your project is. Some projects are right by the sea, right on a cliff. Some are on a hill. Some are in horrible sand, clay, gravel. We can choose what classification our project site has. Huh? Oh, yeah. Yeah, Costa Mesa. So 4, 1.063, 1.0, 0.63, design options. Okay, got all my settings correct. Don't worry if you don't have this done the way I have it here now. The handout will explain everything to a T. One thing I do want to point out is I am using the most up-to-date structure. Okay, installer file I had you guys use should be also the most up-to-date structure file. When I made these handouts, this was maybe a year ago, so forgive me if certain things are not exactly in the same place anymore. FrameCAD changes, FrameCAD updates their software, and instead of engineering being here, it's now over here, okay? There might be a few discrepancies, okay? Just know that there have been changes in the software. If you have any questions, all right, those YouTube videos are exactly where you should put those comments, okay? Don't email me, okay? Please don't email me, right? If you have any homework questions, do not email me, okay? I'm not trying to be mean. It's just, it sucks because if one of you has that question, maybe 5 of you have that question, right? And if I give you the answer and somebody else asks me, then I got to give them that answer. But you guys don't even talk to each other. You don't share that information, right? So that's where some public place like YouTube would be a perfect spot for it.
I'm pretty sure you have to get the version of FrameCAD.
On
The one that we have is the for. It's a different number. It's 11.190.
11 point. Oh, are you that you're using these computers here?
Yeah.
Okay, guys. So IT just switched out all of these computers, right? These are all brand new computers here in our studio. The ones we had previously had been sitting here since I was a student here. They were 15 years old, right? So they just swapped them all out for these hand-me-downs from Litt and Lang. These are only 8 years old. But when they did that, the software, they didn't put the most up-to-date software, okay? So if you guys are dependent on these studio computers here, there's going to be a few discrepancies based on what I'm doing here in person and maybe on my newest videos, but it actually might correlate well with the Google Doc handout because I made this a year ago. All right, with that, what I'm going to do is here in this handout, it'll show you what I expect for a screenshot. This will be an example of assignment 2, entire screenshot. This is your border setup. I should be able to see all 8 of your borders. There's your setup there. I can check your settings for most of it, and then I can see your file name, and that will be assignment 2, is a screenshot of all that. I think that's basically it. So, well, actually, let me hit insert, right? I got all my settings dialed in. I want 8, a quantity of 8. I'm going to hit insert. And these are my borders. This is what I was talking about with borders. If you double click on your middle wheel button, it'll zoom you out to the fullest extent to show you everything in this modeling environment. And these are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 borders, okay? Organized into 2 rows. And they're basically what we call in architecture and engineering title blocks, right? When you look at a set of original drawings of a building, that's what they're printed on, is title blocks. These are just digital representations of actual physical paper. But we'll be 3D modeling inside of each one of these. There are 8 here, and I want to quickly go over their numbering scheme. Here on the bottom left, this is border number 1. This is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's how structure numbers its stuff. It's a little annoying, but whatever. I guess that's just how it works. If I were to zoom in, you can see some information such as the draftsman name, the file name, the view name. And if you zoom in the view name, it'll say something like this: 1 of 8. This is why I don't like this border, because it has too much information that shares the same space. This is my file name running into the view name. Okay. Yes, my file name is extra long, but this is what you would expect in an office, is a super organized file name. But behind it all is 1 of 8. 8 borders. This is number 1. When I zoom out and go to the one above it, this is 2 of 8. So that's page 2. Okay. To quickly navigate between each border, you're going to use the quick navigation method by typing in V and hitting enter, the letter V, as in Victor, as in vector, as in voting, V. And then you're going to type in the page number that you want to travel to. So if I want to go to number 8, I would type in 8 and hit enter, and it's going to zoom me right into 8. If I type in V, enter, 2, enter, it's going to take me to 2. Okay. That's going to be very important moving forward, but we'll get to that in future exercises. All right. Before I end this lecture, were there any questions?
Is there any way to wrap the actual letters themselves? Like, you know, you can wrap like an Excel, the letters themselves to fit within that border so that it's not running over the other border when it comes to the 1 of 8?
So that's where my custom OCC border comes in, right? I've redesigned the border to work better. We'll get to that in a couple of weeks, and we'll show you guys how to create your own custom border, so that way you can mitigate that stupid situation. All right, any other questions? Anything else?
I'm having trouble. I can get the software to load. It keeps giving me it loaded.
Okay.
But once I open your training thing, it says error. And
Okay, we'll take a look at it. Anyone else having issues installing the software? No?
She has her own email.
Huh?
She sent it to her own.
Oh, you can't get to your email. Okay. All right.
how about the
That's a
mouse?
different problem.
Are we going to do the mouse from this and put it to our computer to work tonight? Because I didn't bring a mouse.
I'll give you a mouse to borrow today, but if you have your own laptop, you guys should be bringing in your own mouse. If you're going to be in architecture, you can't do this without a mouse. We're not in Mac users here. All right. Anything else? All right. This is a special night. I'm not planning to lecture to you every night. Instead, what I'll be doing is I'll be giving you and providing you videos that do the same exact thing ahead of time. So that way, instead of us ending at 8 o'clock, we'll start at 6 o'clock. You'll just come in, start to do the assignments. You'll have tons of questions. And I will have already provided you the video and the handout beforehand. Okay. Tonight was just a special night just to get us kick-started. But we'll have 2 hours of in-class time next Thursday. It'll just be studio time. Okay. In regards to tonight, I'll be here until at least 10 p.m. If you guys want to stick around and continue to get some work done, that's totally fine. I'm usually here pretty late anyways, so stick around if you'd like. If you're dependent on using these computers in our studios, all 3 of our studios in architecture have the software loaded onto these computers, which means that if you're dependent on these, you're dependent on our schedule here in the program. Check online to see when classes are available, and then you can come in during those times to use the computers. Okay. Generally, this place is open Monday through Thursday, 8 a.m. to about 9 p.m. So try to fit your homework time in those areas. We're typically not open Fridays, Saturdays, or Sundays. Okay. I may run some extra studio hours on Fridays. If I do, I will definitely let all my classes know through announcements on Canvas. All right? Good. Get to it.